You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list and checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Oh, you better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. You better watch out, you better not cry, you better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. Yes, he's on his way. He's got toys all over the sleigh. Santa is coming to town. Oh, Mr. Kringle is soon gonna jingle the bells that'll tingle all your troubles away. Everybody's waiting for the man with the bag, 'cause Christmas is coming again. He's got a sleigh full, it's not gonna stay full. He's got stuff to drop at every stop of the way. Everybody's waiting for the man with the bag, 'cause Christmas is coming again. He'll be here with the answer to the prayers that you made through the year. You'll get yours if you've done everything you should. Extra special good. He'll make this December the one you'll remember, the best and the merriest you ever did have. Everybody's waiting for the man with the bag. Christmas is here again. Come on. Jingle all the bells that'll tingle all your troubles away. Everybody's waiting for the man with the bag. Christmas is here again. Oh, he's got a sleigh full, it's not gonna stay full. He's got stuff that he's dropping every stop of the way. Everybody's waiting for the man with the bag. Christmas is here again. He'll be here with the answer to the prayers that you made through the year. You'll get yours if you've done everything you should. Extra special good. He'll make this December the one you'll remember, the best and the merriest you ever did have. Everybody's waiting. They're all congregating, waiting for the man with the bag. You better watch out now. yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. But baby, it's cold outside. But baby, it's cold outside. Been hoping that you'd drop in. I'll hold your hands, they're just like ice.
Alright, folks, welcome back to Face It. We're headed in with another match of the night. First Flame going up against the Laika Adams in our first match of the night. Heading into Nepal once again, a very common pick that we've seen so far in the season of Season 7 here at Face It, with Bill opening up on the Farah. If you've been following my coverage of the First Flame matches over the last few days, you're very familiar with Bill playing on Farah, Junkrat, or Torbjorn. Very interesting picks across the board. We can see Killer on the Tracer here. We see the Kiriko, Lucio, Mirror from Sad Blue Whale, and Nightingale. Cat on the Ramatra as well. Very strong picks, getting them some early contests from Laika onto the point. Additionally, we can see Raysace on the Sojourn trying to push Cat out. Sela with the kill onto Bill, though. First Flame trying to mirror it. Gets one onto Sad Blue Well, but Sojourn and Tracer really just cleaning up the rest of First Flame, forcing Raysace to back out of the fight. Lots of damage for First Flame, but they aren't able to get those pivotal finishing blows. Raysace barely able to almost back out, gets taken out right there at the end by Cat, and the Adams are going to get a fairly solid first fight capture, 25% already on the board, as First Flame starts to rally back out. Bill playing extraordinarily high in the air. Bickman on the Sigma pick here. There are two bans to go over. I should have done earlier, but first ban was Diva from First Flame, and then we see the mirror ban from the Adams going up against, sorry, other way around. First Flame banning the Symmetra and Adams banning the Diva up against First Flame. Immediately, First Flame struggling once again to make some headway over the Adams with a couple of deaths from Nebulous and Race Ace. Already back on the back seat, Sad Blue Whale with the finishing blows from Sela there, getting the kills onto Bill and Bickman. First Flame really struggling to push up against the Adams already. There's the overclock pop from Sela on the left, and Race Ace in the middle of the fight. Absolutely overwhelmed. Too many people at once. Killer coming up on that pulse bomb, looking for a stick. Doesn't even need to use it here. Just has to pressure Bickman out, trying to play around the shield, but it's just too much damage. First Flame really struggling, coming up on that 90% capture. First Flame has to find a way to play against this. They're stuck right outside spawn, with Nebulous using that ring to push very quickly. Bickman coming up on the Winston, trying to get a fast touch. We can see Adams just back off. Out comes the Kitsune Rush. Bill gets taken out, but they were able to get a touch. It's sticking down. First Flame needs a touch. There goes a Winston. Bickman's on the point. Bill is dead, but so is Sad Blue Whale. Currently even, as we can see the Annihilation come out from Cat. It gets a kill into Alec, then to Bickman. And down goes Race Ace and Nebulous. First Flame conceding the first capture very quickly to Laika Adams, giving them a very strong start in the first map. First Flame has opportunities to turn this around, but it's already looking a bit dicey for them. And I think a large part of that is just not being able to properly play around Sela on Sojourn here. Consistently getting either flank kills or early kills in the middle of the fight. Bill being completely locked out of the Pharah, unable to maintain any airtime or space up against Sojourn on Laika Adams' side, making it very impossible to really handle. On the flip side, there's a lot of opportunities for First Flame to come back from this, but they've got to figure out some parts of their composition. We can already see they're trying to make swaps with Bill over to the Junkrat instead. I think this is just a smart play in general. They're not able to find anything, excuse me, on the Pharah. Bill playing in a very cheeky spot with Junkrat here, trying to hope someone from Laika pressures into the side. Being on a deep flank. Sad Blue Whale gets the call out though. Bill scrambling to try and find some extra damage. Sad Blue Whale is going to get taken out. Killer also fairly low, forced passive, but still finding damage onto Bickman. Might be able to outdamage it here. As First Flame falls apart in the back, the kill onto Sad Blue Whale isn't nearly enough. And the rally together from Laika Adams immediately turning the fight back in their favor as First Flame is back on the back foot. Having to pressure inward on Nepal second here. This is a tough point to pressure into. That Blue Whale goes out again during the fight, but Alec is in a very similar spot. Bit teetering on the edge of life and death. Bickman also very low, being forced to pop that armor. Down goes Alec and Nebulous, both supports for First Flame dead, once again forcing themselves to rally back out of the fight. Cat with the late kill onto Race. Bickman does get the kill onto Cat though. It's just not enough. No presence from First Flame is going to allow them to capitalize off of this pressure. Vic does get another kill onto Killer though, dropping that Tracer and allowing them to play aggressive onto the point. Because of those two picks, First Flame is able to capture, but they still have to hold. 53% on the first capture from Laika gives them a very aggressive stance up against First Flame. We can see Bill popping that tire on the Junkrat here, trying to go all the way outside, looping through the corner, down onto height, and gets Zella taken out. That's Sojourn down. Big Jumpman here playing on the corner. Bill with the kill on the Killer. First Flame's able to reclaim this space, and they have turned things back around against Laika, but they still have 20% capture progress to get to. Annihilation's also online for Cat. Bickman has it as well. Waiting to see who pops armor first, as we can see Cat poking back in. Laika's looking for their opportunity to pressure First Flame out, making a fast rotation through the left. Opting to go to the right, onto Race Ace, who's backing out but isn't going to make it. 2 kills, there's the Annihilation pop from both Ramatras here. Alec gets the kill onto Nightingale, but First Flame does lose a couple of members there, and Bickman, at a battle of attrition, is going to end up going down. Doesn't have to sustain to stay up through the annihilation. Down goes Bill and Alec as well, as the capture is going to go back over to Laika Adams. Although First Flame pulled ahead very briefly, Laika Adams now have a forward hold once again. We can already see that capture progress flipping back over to their favor. The First Flame rallying for what could be a couple more team fights left. Sela does have the Sojourn Overclock, lots of ultimates to work with. As the Kitsune Rush comes out, there's the sound barrier as well, mirrored out by Sad Blue Whales, both the sound barriers out. Kitsune Rush from Nebulous. First Flame still trying to play in. They've dumped 2 ultimates in and they are about to have Tire, but they have to make value out of these 2. Cat extraordinarily low, but they haven't been able to find those finishing blows. Sela gets taken out before being able to use that overclock. Killer on the flank there, trying to find some presence on the Nebulous, turning back around to deal with Bickman, but ultimately, Laika Adams are going to take a step back to reset before pressuring the fight again. Overclock ready to use again. Out comes the Tire from Bill, diving into the back. Doesn't quite get the kill onto Lucio though. Just a few inches away. Overclock was used, but doesn't find any value as Raysace goes down, but Bill gets the kill. That Blue Whale almost getting knocked off. Has to reset positionally, and we can see First Flame has capture progress at 97%. It's coming down to the wire. We can see the touches. Ramatra and Lucio on the point for Laika Adams as they're scrambling to hold on to it. Both Ramatras popping Annihilation at the exact same time. First Flame uses the High Noon from Raysace on the side. Down goes Big Jumpman. The shield comes out at the perfect time. First Flame has to hold on to get the kill on the Nightingale and Killer. It's just Cat left in the back. First Flame gets the kill, and they're able to take the second round, putting the score 1-1 at a very rough last fight for both teams. Ultimately coming out in First Flame's favor just by a hair. Tying things up 1-1, headed into the third round. This is a chance for either team to take it all the way home. We can see once again, not really any major composition changes here. Both teams sticking with what they're comfortable with. Headed on to the third point of Nepal. There's a chance to turn things in a different direction. First Flame struggled quite a bit on that first point, but they have an opportunity to turn things around headed into this last one. The second one, they did kind of find their footing a bit, but this is a much more outdoor point once again. Bill making the swap off of Farah definitely had a lot of impact on First Flame's ability to play this second point a bit cleaner. Will they be able to hold on to that, or has Laika Adams adapted to First Flame's playstyle? We can see Raysace with the early kill on a Nightingale, immediately directing his attention over to Killer. Gets taken out though by with Alec getting a kill on a Cat, Bill getting one as well. Sad Blue Whale going down at the same time. First Flame gets the kills that they need, trying to close things out with the capture, and First Flame takes the first capture of the third point, giving themselves a concrete reset once again. Bit of a back and forth between the first to second points, but on the third one now, First Flame has definitively set themselves on the first capture. Laika Adams feeling the pressure from Bickman again. Cat isolated, gets taken out by Raysace. First Flame gets a massive pick out of the gate, and Raysace immediately directing his attention to the Tracer at the bottom. It seems like First Flame has found their footing. They're able to figure out what went wrong during that first point and quickly turn things around. The Adams now kind of scrambling to find an answer for First Flame's composition. Struggling to understand which direction they should go. Trying to play through main now instead of onto the height. Cat runs out with Sad, but oh my goodness, Race with very consistent shots is going to completely shut down Sad Blue Whale. Bickman extraordinarily low. Gonna be able to sustain just slightly as Nightingale and Cat go down. Raysace falls, but First Flame still able to hold on to Bickman, which means they can maintain pressure into the fight. Killer goes down, and once again, First Flame now pulling ahead to 60% on the capture. We can see a quick reset coming in from the Adams as they try and touch once again with the Winston swap now. Multiple ultimates on First Flame side. Races could pop that Deadeye literally any second. Bill also having the tire, waiting for their opportunity. Sela in the back might be able to get the kill though. Dropping off the height. There's Bill with the tire, dives in. Nebulous gets the kill into Sela before Bill's able to get there. Out comes the pulse bomb. Killer doesn't find a stick though, and down goes Sad Blue Whale and Cat. It's just Killer able to pressure. Nightingale falls as well. 96% counting down. First Flame has the point and the pressure. Out comes the sound barrier and the annihilation. First Flame takes the first map up against Laika Adams in a bit of a back and forth. We'll see if the Adams are able to tie things up in the second map or if First Flame maintains their lead after a short break.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the
Alright, folks, we're back with map 2. First Flame going up against Laika Adams, headed into Route 66, a fairly popular map pick here at FaceIt, with a couple of bans to address right out of the gate. We see a ban from Laika Adams up against the Ana here, which is a bit of an interesting one, especially since definitely a solid pick on Route, but First Flame, if you've been following the coverage, isn't super big on playing the Ana. Usually, we see Alec run with the Brigitte here, Nebulous playing on either the Kiriko or the Baptiste. Obviously, Adams would only know that if they had been watching the other games. But additionally, First Flame went with the ban over to the Sojourn, which I think is a great pick, considering how oppressive Sila's Sojourn was on the last map. Starting things off fairly strong for them as they're able to get a kill onto Bill and push the cart fairly far forward. Although we can see a quick pick from Raceace onto Sila, trying to follow up with a bit more pressure on the Nightingale. First Flame giving up a decent amount of space here and not poking too far. Could be because of the poke composition that they're going up against at the moment. We can see Bickman trying to find value onto the Sigma here, diving in onto Cat. And able to stuff off the cart for a bit, but First Flame still rallying to reset the cart. We're already seeing a lot of pressure with Cat having that ultimate Gravitic Flux. Goodness gracious, folks, I'm sorry. Popping the Gravitic Flux right now, taking Bickman into the air. Lots of damage, gonna get that D-Mech. First Flame immediately losing their tank afterwards, and as a result, Laika Adams scrambling to close things out. Alec, on the low ground with Cat, gets taken out, loses that shield fairly quickly. Raceace, Nebulous, and Bill still trying to play around the fight here. Bill still resetting back out though, stuffing the corner as much as possible. Raceace goes down, and we can see that Wuyong from Sad Blue Whale trying to find some pressure on the Bill as well. There's going to be that first capture. 4.5 minutes on the clock is a good amount of time. A good amount of time for Laika Adams to have, putting them in a very tough spot. Alec trying to play through the corner here. Pops that rally and gets headshot right out of the gate. Rally down. Sila in that corner. Nebula's still peeking it anyway. That's a massive loss for First Flame as they're immediately on the back foot. Out comes the tidal blast. Bickman gets stunned. First Flame on the back foot as more pressure comes out consistently. Killer unable to find the killing blow. Onto Nebulous, out comes the tire. Can't have another ultimate-like rally. Drops onto the top, gets shot by Sila again! First Flame down 2 ultimates and no value! Nebulous goes down with the Kitsune Rush. Raceace is still resetting, the only one with an ult. Bill finds a couple of kills, but is it enough? The cart is already so far forwards. First Flame has to take a reset. Coming back up around the corner again. First Flame has to find answers. Looking a bit dicey already. Sad Blue Whale with the kill onto Alec, taken up into the air. Here comes Bob to try and push the cart, to try and stall the cart a little bit longer. They're able to knock Laika Adams off, but the pressure is overwhelming with Alec making the swap over to the Lucio. Sila with another kill onto Raceace. The Widowmaker being extraordinarily oppressive. Getting another kill onto Alec. First Flame cannot keep anybody up with Sila on this Widowmaker. Immediately, First Flame has to fall back, going all the way over to last with 4 minutes on the clock for Laika Adams. Raceace popping over to the Widowmaker to try and mirror. This is already looking far dicier than First Flame would have liked. Being in the position they're in, they have to find answers quicker than they're getting them. Pikmin on the Zarya now, trying to play a bit more offensive in a brawl comp instead of diving in. FaceIt still trying to match out Sela here. Getting very close to finding that shot. It does finally shut down the Widow. First Flame has an opportunity to play aggressive. Out comes Bill with the tire. No more repeats of bad ultimates for First Flame. They dive in but don't secure the kill. Nightingale right outside. First Flame still able to hold it down, but 3 minutes on the clock. Sad Blue Whale with a kill on the Bill. And another onto Alec. Cat does go down afterwards, though. Laika Adams aren't going to have a ton of presence in order to push it back out of the fight here. First Flame's able to retake and hold a little bit better now, but they still have to be cautious. This is arguably the worst point for Widowmaker to play on, but the fact that Sela has found so much value thus far is making it impossible for them to properly play around. FaceIt's popping the Widowmaker ultimate from the height and trying to find some value. Immediately, First Flame loses Nebulous there, and Pikmin not too far behind. No bubbles, not enough support from just the Lucio. Out comes the Tidal Blast, and it's just a cataclysm of events as they lose FaceIt and Alec at the same time. Cat's headed over to the spawn. The payload is moving. 2 minutes on the clock. First Flame needs to find an answer. We can see Sela making the swap over to the Genji here. FaceIt rolling out on the Tracer, trying to get there as fast as possible. Pikmin making it over to the point. Forcing Cat off. Sad Blue Whale with the kill on the Bill very early on. First Flame has to play the corner because that amplification matrix is strong. Gravitic Flux comes up. It hits Alec. Alec is down. There's the Graviton Surge in the back. It's not able to fight any kills though. Nightingale is able to sustain through the help of Sad Blue Whale. Down goes Pikmin, but no one on First Flame is on the cart. And we can see the capture goes to Laika Adams there. 1.5 minutes on the clock. First Flame staggering over the first 2 control points, completely unable to counter Sela on that Widowmaker, facing their wrath. By the time the clock had hit the 3rd point, 4 minutes to capture last was too much of an insurmountable defensive task. Headed over to swapping sides now. First Flame has to figure things out. They're going up against a very difficult fight. And it's looking just a little too difficult for them at the moment. They definitely can still round themselves back together, but they're sitting on a pretty difficult. Apologies. They're sitting on a very difficult task at the moment. They have to figure something out. And if Sela's going to roll back out on that Widowmaker, which we can see to be difficult to do, FaceIt is immediately headed out into the fight. Which means that there's definitely an opportunity for First Flame to figure something out offensively, but Sela now has the height, unlike they did on the first half, giving them a bit more of an angle to play up against First Flame, and theoretically giving them more opportunities to get kills on First Flame, even more than they did in the first half, making this an even harder task for them. Pikmin rolling out on the Sigma. We can see the support composition going over to Zenyatta and Baptiste. Now, Zen's a pick I was not expecting here, although it's a bit understandable considering the auto ban. Pikmin with an early kill with the help of Bill onto Cat. First Flame gets a tank pick. They're able to play with that, mocking forwards very quickly. Bill on the Torbjorn, stuffing through main. Alec on the cart with Nebulous, and we can already see a very passive reset from Laika Adams as they begin to rally for a reset with Cat. Sela still on that Widowmaker, swapping over to the Genji now, perhaps not able to find as much value with the composition that First Flame is on. Both Sigmas duking it out on height, trying to find value over each other. Lots of value from Cat Killer and Sela as they're immediately able to shut down First Flame's push. We can see Bill gets a kill on the Sad Blue Whale, but it's not quite enough. First Flame gets decently far, in that push. Immediately we can see First Flame going for the reset once again. They were able to get decently far, but they still have to figure out a way to conquer Cat on the Sigma here. can see Sad Blue Whale finding value on the Wuyong again. Gets kind of pressured out by Race there. Jumpman with the kill onto Sela does shut down the Genji. We can see Bigman rolling out onto the cart with not a lot of pressure from the Atoms. Throwing out that rock. There is Gravitic Flux. Cat is so low, not quite able to find the kill. Killer gets 2 onto Bill and Race in the back. Both damages down for First Flame. Is this a losing fight? Alec gets 1 onto Cat, but there's the stick. Immortality Field comes out from Nebulous, keeping Bic alive. Has to pop the Gravitic Flux, but it misses. No targets. And the pressure is overwhelming. First Flame doesn't get the confirmed kills that they need. Back on the back foot again. Despite the fact that they were able to confirm so much at the beginning of the fight, Killer getting the double kill onto Bill and Race, losing Alec immediately after. No avenue for First Flame to play with as they're forced to reset. As a result, Laika Atoms are ready to go once again, pressuring First Flame from their offense. Popping that amplification matrix, Nebulous mirroring it, but it's already hurting a lot. That Wuyong with the amplified damage is going to end up getting the kill onto Nebulous. There's the Molten Core trying to find any value. Sad Blue Whale and Sela go down. Nightingale goes down. First Flame has the numbers advantage. They just have to get a couple more kills, but they're holding on for all that they have. No recall on the Tracer, but they're still decently healthy. Down goes the Sigma. Killer has no avenue. First Flame is finally able to get the capture that they need. A very tough fight for them. 3 minutes on the clock is nothing to scoff at, but Laika Atoms definitely had a better time, making this an uphill battle for First Flame as they head back over to the offensive. We can see the Tidal Blast ready on Sad Blue Whale, looking for an opportunity to use that on Cat. Not a whole lot of older ultimates on the board. Race and Alec having the Sound Barrier and Deadeye. Out comes the Tidal Blast once again. We can see Alec pop the Sound Barrier to try and prevent any damage. Bill goes down anyway. Race gets a kill onto Sela. Numbers are even. First Flame trying to find more value. Going in up against Killer in the back. Nebulous is already really hurt though. Sad Blue Whale gets the kill. Race is stuffed out. Gets taken out. Bigman tries to pop the Gravitic Flux. Not going to be able to get any value off of that either. First Flame has to go for the reset. And already back on that back foot again. First Flame cannot find what they need. Race making the swap over to the Ash here, hoping to find more off of that than the Cassidy. Mirroring Sela as well. Already playing at the corner. Killer has the Pulse Bomb. Looking for an opportunity to use it. Bill with the kill onto Sela right out of the gate. First Flame can play aggressive. They try and turn things around. Race with the kill on the Cat. First Flame has momentum. Big already a little low though. Nightingale plays a little too aggressive. Gets caught out for it. First Flame has the momentum. A minute and a half on the clock. They still have about 20 meters to go. No ultimates in their favor either. Pulse Bomb and Gravitic Flux on Laika Atoms' side, giving them an opportunity to reaggress this fairly quickly. We can see Cat is going for that exact thing. Trying to pressure out, but Bigman is stalling. Here comes the Gravitic Flux. It catches nobody. Another miss from the Sigma ultimates, and as a result, First Flame can stay in pressure. Less than a minute on the clock. Killer is stalling it by themselves. Alec trying to fight the Tracer on pressure, forces the recall out. First Flame doesn't have any pressure on the card at the moment. We can see Bic drop off of the height to try and take it. Out comes the Molten Core from Bill, hoping to find some value on the Torbjorn here. Getting some damage out, but there's the Amplification Matrix. Alec and Race get a couple of kills on Asila and Killer, which is actually, might just be enough as Nightingale is forced into the passive, taken out by the Molten Core. There's the Tidal Blast. Is it enough to hold down the point though? We can see Tracer trying to reset as fast as possible. Cat eventually goes down less than a meter, and First Flame gets the capture. 2 minutes on the clock. Starting out with a significant time disadvantage. At this point, they won't be able to mirror the exact same time as Laika Atoms, but there's still a lot of time for them to get on the board. At the very least, they should be able to get something other than overtime, which would be a huge benefit for them headed into the overtime. That is, unless Laika Atoms stops them completely here. We can already see Bigman on the high ground trying to find some value, but Cat meeting them there. Taking the fight in a very difficult spot. Bickman popping the Gravitic Flux. Actually captures Cat, but at what cost? Not able to get that final blow. Neb finds the kill on the killer, though. Potentially still a fight for First Flame. They have the numbers advantage. There's the sound barrier. Drops Race Ace, unfortunately, for First Flame. Bickman with the kill on the Nightingale. Sad Blue Whale with another onto Race Ace. Bill tries to go in for the hammer kill there. Coming down to 50 seconds on the clock. First Flame pushing the cart up and around the corner. Sad Blue Whale forced into spawn. Has to heal back up again. Sela gets taken out on the reset though. First Flame using that amplification matrix from Nebulous. Out comes the Gravitic Flux. Gets the capture onto Bill. Bill is super low. Can't quite find the kill onto Katia though. Down goes Sad Blue Whale, Killer, and Nightingale. Katia follows not too long after, and not going to be able to get the touch. Sela falls apart. First Flame gets the capture just shy of overtime with a minute left on their clock. And with that, First Flame, although they're down about a minute here, they still have an opportunity to play into this first overtime half. Back on the offensive is Laika Adams. We could see Sela open up with that Widowmaker again and be oppressive as she was in the last time. But that was a bit of a tricky pull. It worked so well because Sela got 2 ult cancels on second point with the Widowmaker onto the rally and then immediately destroying the tire. Wasn't able to find any value from First Flame, making Sela's pick onto Widowmaker extraordinarily oppressive. Still an opportunity for them to find value. They have to be cautious. Looks like they're gonna go for the Hanzo Tracer combination in terms of damage. First Flame, on the other hand, opting to run with the Juno, potentially just for the ring. We'll see if Alec sticks on that, or if Alec will swap after the gate opens. Switching over, there's still a lot of opportunities, but with only a minute on the clock, First Flame's gonna have to find value quickly. Opting not to ring out of the door. Alec on a bit of a cheeky angle here right out of the gate, keeping Bick up. Sela's going through lower, trying to find someone. Race Ace has been spotted immediately on the offensive. Pops the recall early though, not going to go back for the re-aggression. Bill gets taken out by Sad Blue Whale. Excuse me. Nebulous still trying to poke from the height as well. 30 seconds on the clock. First Flame realistically needs to get it around this corner if they want to stand any real chance up against Laika Adams. But Nebulous already low, forced to use that Immortality Field again. Does find a decent amount of value with it. At least is able to keep everybody else up. Alec in the back getting chased out by Tracer. First Flame is not giving up though. They're still sticking in with 4 seconds on the clock. A big Jumpman is on the cart, but Cat meeting him there. Getting stunned out again. Cat is looking for an opportunity to play on top of First Flame. Going back around the corner, looking at Neb. Neb's extraordinarily low. Bill with the double kill on the Sad Blue Whale and Sela. We can see another onto Killer, and Killer with the kill onto Bill. First Flame has the numbers advantage. They just need to close the gap as they're coming around the last corner here. Still potential for a capture for them. Cat very low. First Flame just trying to get those last few shots. Alec trying to find some viability in the recent Juno changes, which allows her to land critical hits. Definitely playing her a bit more offensively than she would have been during the last patch. Race Ace popping the Widowmaker in for sight here, looking for a couple of shots, finds a headshot onto Cat. Cat backing out as First Flame actually is able to get the capture, giving them a very strong hold in the overtime. First Flame's not giving up their momentum yet though, popping that Gravitic Flux, gets Cat. Cat's really low. Cat's down. That's a huge pick for First Flame. And the pulse bomb from Sela doesn't find value either. Laika on the back foot as they try and get out of the grasp of First Flame. But with the recent buffs to Sigma as well, getting the kill onto Killer is relatively simple. Still forced to play passive, but is ready for the re-engagement after getting those heals coming up on that rocket barrage. Able to secure it right there at the end. Just needs a little bit of a buff before going for it. We can expect an ult re-engage. from Cat once they make it there. Overtime still ticking down. First Flame coming up on the 70-meter mark, nearing the second checkpoint. Here comes Cat. Here comes the Orbital Ray. Bill with the kill from the Rocket Barrage. We can see Race Ace getting the kill on a killer. That's an ultimate out of the fight. Cat being killed there is massive for First Flame. Once again, they find so much value in a singular ultimate. Alec does use Orbital Ray there as well. First Flame still has Nebulus's Amplification Matrix, but they have to be cautious because Laika Adams is now up on 3 ultimates. They've got that Gravitic Flux, they have the Tidal Blast, they've got the Amplification Matrix. Nothing is standing in their way from ult dumping onto First Flame here and completely shutting them down. The Amplification Matrix is the only thing that should be on their radar at the moment. Killer gets taken out by Race Ace again. Here's the Tidal Blast onto Katia. Out comes the Gravitic Flux. Tries to find value. Nightingale gets 2. Bill and Nebulous go down. Katia in the back getting focused out by Race Ace. The Amplification Matrix still up for First Flame just for a moment. Alec has to play for the touch. No one from First Flame is up. No one's going to be able to get the touch. And the third round, the overtime half, First Flame gets 2 captures and 30 meters. All things considered, a tremendous overtime half for First Flame, putting Laika Adams in a very difficult spot at the side swap here. Have to figure things out fairly quickly if they want to stand the chance going up against First Flame in their offensive half. They do have an extra full minute in comparison to First Flame, but what First Flame did with the amount of time they were allotted is nothing short of extraordinary, which means that Laika Adams are going to have to put in something equally as equally as impressive in order to figure things out. There is still a chance for Laika Adams. Obviously, they have showcased their ability to completely lock out First Flame when need be. But they still cannot get lazy against First Flame. First Flame has clearly showed an ability to counter what they're going up against. We can see already the roster picks with Race Ace actually rolling out on the Bastion. Still sticking with the Junkrat, been fairly consistent on that. Sela playing with the Widowmaker. Once again, Widowmaker from Sela has been extraordinarily oppressive, and there's no doubt that it can definitely do more. Walls fall, headed into the next overtime round here. Bill with an early kill onto Sad Blue Whale. Immediately another onto Sela, and that is the power of the Junkrat, getting a third one onto Nightingale. Immediately, we can see Laika is completely reset to spawn, with Cat getting an even later death than Sela and Nightingale. Bill opening up with a triple kill and then finishing off Cat. We can already see the swap over to D.Va. First Flame's got to be cautious here. This is a strong spot to play, and it makes sense for the amount of time on the clock. But a single wrong move could cause a complete team kill. They're able to find another kill on the killer, though. Bill, once again, finding tremendous value on the Junkrat. Killer rolling back out. Katia has to go for another reset. Laika Adams able to pressure out of spawn a little bit. Alec in an extremely vulnerable position almost gets taken out by the Wuyang. Sad Blue Whale finding some value there and does actually get one on to Bill, which is a huge pick. This is exactly what I was talking about. What happens when one member dies when you're this forward? First Flame now in a bit of a tricky spot with their positioning being completely knocked out. Nebulous in a very vulnerable position gets taken out by Sela. Everyone else from Laika Adams now on height, and without First Flame having the ability to deal with height, they're just trickling out slowly but surely. Race Ace is able to get the kill onto Killer. Alec is just in time to save Race Ace's life, but there's just so much damage. First Flame's gonna back out and play for the reset as Laika Adams begins to get the cart looping back around Bill with the posthumous kill onto Sela there. And we can see First Flame rallying back up for another offense up against Laika. Race Ace still on the Bastion, finding a decent amount of value, stuffing out Nightingale. First, forced to use that wave to keep themselves alive, but here comes Cat on the flank, really trying to get that kill onto Nebulous again. Sad Blue Whale pressuring onto the height as well. Nebulous goes down. First Flame has 3 ultimates. They could make use of those. Alec goes down as well, though. First Flame doesn't have any support near the cart. Down goes Bill and Race Ace. It's just Bickman on the cart. Sela gonna stay alive because of that defense matrix. First Flame gets it all the way down to overtime, but that capture progress is nearing the first objective. with First Flame nowhere to be seen in terms of defense, they're probably going to have to sack this capture unless Alec feels competent enough to get a touch here. We can see First Flame rallying up for that potential touch, but it looks like they're just going to concede the capture, play for the next point. First Flame has 4, nearly 5 ultimates here. Big fights about to happen. Prepare to watch the ultimate Q presses across the board, because not only does Alec almost have his ultimate, but the rest of Laika Adams almost has all of theirs as well. Big with the kill on a cat. It's a massive kill. Neb saving Bill's life from the self-destruct sequence. That is your tank out of commission on Laika's side. We can see ultimates popped left and right with the artillery barrage, the sound barrier, the Kitsune rush, the tire, the gravitic flux. But down goes Vikman. There's the pulse bomb. Bill still finds a kill on the sad blue whale. We can see First Flame still trying to hold on. Here's the Deadeye from Sela. Has to be cautious. Gets the kill though. Bill on the Junkrat, absolutely destroying in the backline. They cannot move the cart as Nebulous pops that amplification matrix. The time ticks down. No one's able to touch. First Flame takes the second map up against Laika Adams, putting the score 2-0. We'll be back with the third map to see if Laika Adams can get something on the board or if First Flame will take it all the way home after a short break.
It's the happiest season of all, with those holiday greetings and gay happy meetings when friends come to call. It's the happiest season of all. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, and caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. It's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be much mistletoeing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time. Yes, the most wonderful time. Oh, the most wonderful time of the year. Melekaliki maka Christmas Day. That's the island greeting that we send to you from the land where palm trees sway. Here we know that Christmas will be green and bright, the sun to shine by day and all the stars at night. Melikilikimaka is a wise way to say Merry Christmas to you.
Alright, folks, this is a bit sudden, sorry. Not a lot of prep time here, but First Flame, third map up against Laika Adams. Couple of bans to look at here. We've got Junkrat going up against a Junkrat ban from Laika Adams, and a ban from First Flame going up against Tracer here. 2 damage bans to start things off with our third map here at Midtown, of course. This is Laika Adams' last chance to turn things around against First Flame, unless First Flame is going to take it all the way home. Bill being locked out of the Junkrat is no problem, though, opening up on the Pharah this time around. Getting a pretty quick kill on the Nightingale. First Flame starting out on the defense time around. Race very low, still able to stay up. Neither tank opting to play the Sigma this time around, instead mirroring each other's Ramatra picks. Nebulous rolling out onto the Juno, the changes to her critical damage, definitely giving her some more viability. Alec opting to switch with the Brigitte. Similarly to Route 66. First Flame loses Bill there, and that could spell disaster, as Alec's now in a tough spot up against Ramatra. Able to stay alive, Nebulous on a very good heal watch there. But Alec does eventually go down to Sela, killing with the kill onto Nebulous. And Bickman goes down as well. First Flame's gonna fall apart not too long after that. And we can see the captures come in. With First Flame going to have to concede that capture pretty quickly, unless Bill feels like he can get a competent kill here. Finds a decent amount of damage onto Sad Blue Whale. Not a lot of opportunities. Wait, First Flame! I lied! Bill goes down, but gets a kill on the Sad Blue Whale. That copy's taken out. Race Ace goes down. They're stalling for a little bit longer, but there's the Annihilation Pop. Does First Flame have the sustain for that? There's the Annihilation Pop as well. But they don't have a touch for the point. Bickman, not quite able to get that killing blow on the cat is what's going to ultimately seal the deal. First Flame does stall out a bit, but I'm wondering if that Annihilation Pop was worth it. Bickman sees it might be potentially worth it to go for the swap over to the Diva. To the rally come out from Alec. Race diving in up against Cat. Has to use that fan a couple of times. Gets some decent damage. Pops the Deadeye as well. Gets the kill onto Sela. There's the Orbital Ray as well. First Flame comes in with the rally to get a ton of damage off. Kiriko teleports out everyone else from Laika Adams. Going to be able to sustain themselves, but losing Cat there is going to reset the fight. We can see Cat going for the swap over to the Sigma here. First Flame uses the Rocket Barrage. Killer gets the kill, though. Unfortunately for Bill, Killer now swapping over to the Pharah has made his task even harder to play around. And as that happens, we just see an overwhelming amount of damage against First Flame. Bickman goes down. Alec goes down. Nebulous is being pressured. Bill's able to make it back over to the fight. Race Ace finds a kill on the Sad Blue Whale. Everyone's trying to play underneath into the tunnel here. Nebulous, no idea what's going on. Just sees the Sigma, decides to pressure. Nebulous on the low ground in a bit of a scary spot. Killer popping the copy after getting the kill on the Bill onto the Cassidy here. Looking for a couple additional shots. Out comes the Bob. Bob runs all the way across Midtown. First Flame giving up some presence here, as that Bob's still putting in a bit of oppression all the way in the back. Nightingale and Killer get a couple of kills onto Alec and Nebulous. Alec with a swap over to Lucio, trying to find value there. But down goes Race and Bigman as well. Poor Bill has nowhere to go. First Flame looking for a quick answer as they're about to roll out again. 2 minutes on the clock. First Flame needs a foothold quickly. Looks like they're not even going to be able to have the opportunity for a touch. ABI light again. Let's see. They're on the cart. There's the sound barrier. Not quite able to secure that Ajax. Out comes the Gravitic Flux. And it's a ton of damage. Pikmin gets a demech. Race Ace popping that high noon. Gets taken out before popping it though. It's just too much damage. First Flame can't sustain. And there's the capture. Another team kill from Laika Adams against First Flame. First Flame struggling quite a bit here on Midtown. 2.5 minutes on the clock, and they need to find an answer up against Laika Adams. Nightingale has the Kitsune Rush here. Gets immediately Defense Matrix out of the Suzu. Just going to use their full kit to get off of height instead. Opting to use that Kitsune Rush. Here comes the Satellite Vector. Orbital Ray from the Juno. First Flame does not give up their pressure. They still have to be cautious. That AI Cat could still find value here. Pikmin diving into the back, tries to get the kill on the Nightingale, forces the TP. And back around the flank again, diving up against Nightingale. Race Ace with a double kill. Bill does go down to Killer, but Killer does eventually get taken out by Pikmin. And Bill is struggling at the moment because of that Junkrat ban playing into the Pharah. Playing into the Echo on Pharah has just been a bit of an uphill battle for Bill so far. First Flame, getting ready for the next team fight up against Laika Adams. Laika Adams does have that duplicate again, excuse me. Nebulous gets taken out by Sela, and that's an opportunity to go in. Pikmin gets demech'd, has to try and go for that remech ultimate, but gonna die instead. Too much damage, not enough sustain, being down Nebulous. Alec on the Zenyatta can't put out enough to keep Pikmin alive during the remech. Race Ace has the overclock, Bill has the rocket barrage, but here comes Bob. Right outside the spawn door. Difficult to sustain. There's the copy ultimate from Killer as well onto the D.Va. Bill's able to get the demech there. But First Flame doesn't have any opportunity to touch the cart. And without that, we can see the Adams take the next point, take a full 3-point capture there. That's going to be a side swap for First Flame. A bit of a tricky first half for them, as the Adams are able to take a solid 95 meters and get 45 seconds on their third capture. First Flame really kind of struggled there. I mentioned it at the beginning of the round, but the ban on the Junkrat has locked Bill out of a very oppressive playstyle that he was relying on in the previous few maps. Now headed into this map, playing into the Pharah. It was a good pick, but with Killer being on the Echo, it's been extraordinarily difficult for Bill to find value, and I think Bill is aware of that, potentially considering a different damage swap, something that can be a bit more consistent to play around. Excuse me. Cat rolling out on the Ramatra again. Bigman opting to play for the Sigma out of first here, which I think is a solid pick. Like I mentioned, the buffs onto Sigma have made him extraordinarily powerful in the recent patch, and it's no surprise that we're seeing a Sigma pick, especially on the last map. We saw both Sigmas mirroring each other. The only difficulty we've seen tonight from Sigmas is the ability for them to hit their ultimates. We've seen a handful of missed Gravitic Fluxes, which has been, excuse me, a bit tough overall, but not an insurmountable task as the walls fall. Excuse me, goodness gracious. First Flame is on the offense, rolling out once again with the Pharah. Bit of an interesting pick for First Flame, especially considering how oppressive Killer has been on the Echo, immediately meeting Bill in the air. Alec on the Wu Yang, trying to find some value. Race Ace rolling out on the Widowmaker this time around and trying to mirror out Ash. Cat feeling some of that presence, using the armor to get back into cover here. We can see down goes Ash there. Laika Adams a bit on the back foot, losing one of their damages. Bickman also in deep up against Cat. Using that armor to get through the shield though, and Nebulous is fairly low. Killer gets the kill onto Raceace. It's looking a bit difficult now as Bickman's on the back foot in terms of health. Those stickies hurt really hard. Bill gets the kill on the Cat though. It's still potentially there, but with Bick going down, the fight might be over. Down goes Bill, down goes Alec, and down goes Nebulous. The Atoms are able to scrape together their defense and force a reset for First Flame. Bit of an interesting back and forth team fight there. Bill dies early enough to get back to the fight a second time, but once again, Bill's struggling to find value on that Pharah. Gets the finishing blow on the Cat, but is forced to reset. Bill's, as a result, going to make the swap over to the Torbjorn here, and this is the pick that I expected to see at the beginning of Midtown. Now that we're seeing it in action, Killer not going to have as much to look at instead of the Pharah, which actually gives Killer more opportunities to play offensive. Able to get the kill onto Bickman, immediately getting traded out between Bickman though. First Flame on the reset, losing your tank so early in the fight. There's the infra sight from Raceace, trying to find value on the Widowmaker. Still a little bit of time on the clock for First Flame, but they're coming down to a bit of a difficult juncture where they're resetting these team fights very consistently and they're not able to make enough headway to find value. You can see that copy is coming up from Killer here. Any moment now, the Atoms will be ready to retaliate against First Flame with a few ultimates coming up on a lot very soon. There's the duplicate in the pocket. Bickman's extraordinarily low. Not quite able to get the finishing blow with the beam, but Cat does. There's Alec in a tough spot as well. Cat gets another onto Bill, and the pressure is overwhelming. Cat with the kill onto Nebulous, and then another onto Bill there. And immediately we see Cat and Killer getting, taken out. Cat and Killer getting 2 kills, sorry. First Flame resetting once again, nearly less than a minute on the clock. It's looking a bit tough for them. 3 ultimates in First Flame's pocket. There's an opportunity here, but look at Laika Adams at the top right. 5 ultimates across the board. This is going to be a very uphill battle for them. Less than a minute now, ticking down. Someone has to make a play. There's the Gravitic Flux. Bickman gets caught in it. It's a ton of damage. There's not able to hit the tide. On to the right target. Alec can't Tidal Blast. And it's just ultimate usage there. Like Adams only needing to use 1. Nebulous goes down. Like Adams using 2 ultimates there, locking First Flame out of any presence despite the fact that they used their own Tidal Blast. It wasn't able to reach Bickman in time. First Flame needs to find an answer fast. 20 seconds on the clock. Out comes the Kitsune Rush. We can see trying to mirror with the Gravitic Flux, but gets taken out by Killer. And the ult cancel is rough for First Flame. Out comes the Tidal Blast. Out comes the Molten Core. Out comes all the damage in the world from the Amplification Matrix, but First Flame can't find the kills that they need. The Atoms get the team kill. They're holding right outside spawn. First Flame with no answer. The time ticks down, and the Atoms take the 3rd map, getting a much-needed map win on the board, putting the score 2-1. The Atoms have shown up. This is their chance to tie things up and put the score 2-2 in the 4th map after a short break.
Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the tree tops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I write. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be white. May your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmases be Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Man, it doesn't show signs of stopping. And I brought me some corn for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, how I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. And the fire is slowly dying. And my dear, we're still goodbye. But as long as you love me so, let it snow and snow.
All right, folks, so we're back with map 4 of First Flame going up against Laika Adams, and the overlays are inverted, so let me fix that real quick. We're headed into Runa Sapi, our push map for the night, and so far it's been a bit of an interesting series. First Flame was able to take the first couple of maps off of Laika Adams, but then Laika Adams had a very impressive display on Midtown, clearly showing that they have the potential to take this match all the way home in a crushing display against First Flame. Headed into Runa Sapi, this is now the map pick for First Flame, giving them a bit of an edge. Additionally, 2 bans to talk about on the board. First ban is Sigma, which makes sense. I mean, Sigma was extraordinarily oppressive from Laika Adams in the first map. Second ban of the match is Farah, just taking away Bill's other usage here. But that does mean Bill is back on the Junkrat, which if you've been following the coverage, you've seen just how oppressive Bill can be on Junkrat. We can see a couple of kills right out of the gate with First Flame at an even numbers advantage here, actually just slightly pulling ahead with the kill on the Cat. Bill gets taken out by Killer though, And First Flame a bit on the mix-up now, with Laika Adams able to get control over the robot at the beginning of the round, starting their descent towards forward spawns. This will be a very important map for the Atoms, as this is their chance to tie things up 2-2 and take potentially the series over First Flame. First Flame looking to end the series right here. You can see that Deadeye pop from Races gets absolutely decimated by Nightingale. Alec with the kill on the killer. Bill and Alec immediately finding a lot more value, and Bickman finishing off Nightingale. That's going to be a team kill for First Flame, as they're able to reclaim the robot and put it into their favor. However, Laika Adams getting those first 40 meters gives them a bit of an advantage to push this team fight early. First Flame also a bit slow on the reset. It's going to be a bit of a slow team fight for First Flame. They have to take it pretty quickly, though. We can already see that they're trying to play aggressive a bit, peppering out for the Laika from getting the early pressure. Immediately that duplicate comes out from Killer onto the Diva Pop. We can see the sound barrier from Alec. Lots of damage being absorbed from both sides, but Killer is trying to build up that nuke. Gets taken out before having the possibility. Out comes the tire from Bill. It gets shot by Cat once again. Bill's tire is being consistently denied by the Atoms here. Self-destruct gets the kill onto Bickman, and that's a lot of value for Laika Adams, as they're able to get a couple more kills, but First Flame turns the pressure back over to Laika once again. Pressuring out Killer. Race Ace extraordinarily low, gets Susu'd out by Neb, and gets the finishing blow onto Nightingale. First Flame very close to losing that fight, losing Bickman at the midpoint. Still able to rally together with Race Ace and Nebulous, getting some pivotal picks up against Laika Adams, as the robot is nearing the turning point. Laika Adams is going to First Flame's going to slightly take the lead over Laika Adams. Goodness gracious. That Blue Whale has that sound barrier. We can see Nightingale uses that Kitsune Rush, followed up with the sound barrier immediately afterwards. First, Laika Adams in, very aggressive up against First Flame. Race Ace with the kill onto Sela despite that. Cat with the kill onto Race Ace. It's looking like it's a bit of a mix-up. Both numbers are tied together. Alec trying to find the finishing blow onto Killer, but Killer maintaining distance. We can see the trade out once again. Nightingale goes down, but so does Nebulous. With Killer going down, that's going to seal the fight for Laika, as they're trying to get out of the area, but Cat is overwhelmed by the damage from First Flame. Sela with a kill on a Bill. Sela make it back over to the fight. First Flame hasn't claimed their forward spawns yet. These kills are important. Vic in deep, still trying to find value, gets the D-Mech onto Cat, but honestly, this is a bit of a tricky fight for First Flame. They had so much of that pressure in the bag, but Sela showing up and getting the kill on the Bill actually denies them from getting their forward spawns. We can see the pick onto Cat, but now that Bickman's D-Mech, First Flame doesn't have their forward spawns, and Laika is stacked and ready to go back into the fight. Laika with the massive advantage that they have over the spacing here, although they're going to be a bit slow with Cat. We can already see Sad Blue Whale going back for the taxi. Gonna be a bit of a difficult re-engagement for First Flame. They stall the point over at mid once again, while Cat rallies back together. Adams coming up on a second ultimate with First Flame headed over to their third. That tire from Bill almost ready to go again. Alec has that sound barrier. First Flame giving up a bit of space before re-engaging. They have every opportunity to do it. There's the tire from Bill. Big damage onto Cat, but not quite able to secure the kill. Has to go for the remech nuke. Race Ace doesn't quite get the secure. Bill goes down to the remech nuke. Killer pops the ultimate onto the Kiriko here. Out comes the sound barrier from Alec. First Flame trying to find value, but Bickman already locked out of that mech. That Blue Whale trying to get the finishing blow, as Laika is still able to lock out First Flame's presence. Down goes Bickman. Sela gets the finishing blow on the Nebulous, and First Flame once again on the reset with Laika getting control over the robot. Now, Laika has to just get a few more meters, about 10, before they pull the lead, and First Flame is backed all the way back near their spawn. Laika's going to be able to pull ahead and also capture their forward spawns. First Flame has to rally quickly to the offense. Options running low. Out comes the overclock from Sela, trying to find value, but Pikmin with the denial. Immediately we can see FaceIt pop his own overclock. Old overclock's getting kind of nullified. Bill gets a kill on the sad blue whale. Alec playing onto the cart, trying to get the pick onto Nightingale here, but Nightingale almost finds him. Bill finds the kill for Alec, and Alec reclaims the robot, but oh man, those stickies hurt. Killer's back on the offensive, trying to find some pressure. FaceIt with the kill on the cat. Is it going to be a bit of a late death for Laika Adams, but they can definitely still regroup down the hill. Getting some of that pressure for ult builds here. First Flame coming online to a third one with Bill's tire not too far behind. They also have the Kitsune Rush and the self-destruct sequence ready to go. Sad Blue Whale has the sound barrier. Boom. Big pop for Laika Adams as they're able to stay engaged and force Neb out of the Kitsune Rush here. First Flame, once again, 0.24 meters away from getting their forward spawns, but they haven't been able to lock it down. Here comes the tire from Bill. It could be big, and it gets two. Sela and Sad Blue Whale. Cat has to use the self-destruct sequence, so does Pikmin. First Flame still staying in as they cannot lock down their forward spawns. Just a few meters away each time. Less than a meter away each time. Oh, never mind, they did. My bad. Throwing. Alec with the kill onto Killer. First Flame still holding onto a bit of control as the rest of the team's able to reset. Alec has that sound barrier. Killer has the duplicate. Bit of a low ult economy right now. Not a lot for either team to work with. You're going to see a beat engage there from Alec as First Flame tries to play with the presence. There's the duplicate from Killer. Immediately TPing out from the Kiriko. Uses the Kitsune Rush. Trying to find value from it. Killer very low on the duplicate, but still maintaining solid presence. You can see Sad Blue Whale going down. Alec trying to get the D-Mech there. Cat goes down from Alec, getting a lot of value. You can see Killer tried to find the finishing blow onto Neb. Does eventually find it, but at the cost of their life. And First Flame, now in control of the robot, pushes it past the lead and headed around the hill. A minute and a half on the clock. Laika has to take a team fight here. So far, they've been really good at stalling out First Flame, but they're struggling to get those team fights when they need them. First Flame going to give a lot of presence over to Laika, give them a chance to re-aggress, is also a tactic of delaying the robot a bit. First Flame meets them on the corner with Bill getting close to that, getting close to death. Nightingale with a big kill on a FaceIt, the venture in deep in the backline. Killer finding value on there. Bill forced on the Suzu. Once again, very close to going down. Sela has the overclock. Cat has the self-destruct sequence. Out comes the overclock, and it hurts. Nebulous looks a bit tough. Worse for wear, gets taken out by Sela. Prime pickings for the overclock ultimate. Laika back on the offensive. They broke the stalemate as I was mentioning it. Sela with another onto Bill. And as they broke that stalemate, they're able to reclaim their their forward spawns and take the pressure back over to First Flame's side. 13 seconds on the clock, however. This is their last chance. They cannot afford to let things slip. But if you're looking at the top right, you're going to notice lots of ultimates from First Flame. Sound Barrier, Deadeye, Tire, all used at the same time. FaceIt gets one on the Killer with the Deadeye. Bill trying to find value on the Tire, gets Sela. And the overtime is ticking down. Sad Blue Whale uses that Sound Barrier. Calling for Laika. They destroy the mech, but Bick... Oh, the robot moves ever so slightly. It gets the kill on the Sad Blue Whale. Here comes the ultimate from Nebulous on the Kitsune Rush. The overtime is ticking. Laika can't step off. Nightingale makes it there. Cat has to go for the remake. The overtime's ticking down, but Cat is so low. Barely able to get the remake. Crushes Bill in the process. Killer makes it back over. Cat's extraordinarily low. Doesn't have a pack, doesn't have support. Alec goes down. Nebulous is right there. Nebulous extraordinarily low. The D-Mech Nebulous goes down. Laika still playing on the point. No mech to play with though. They're still there. Pikmin holding on for dear life as the support is down. FaceIt is down. The D-Mech comes. Bill's made it back over to the point. A kill onto Cat, but Pikmin goes down. It's just Bill left holding on. Here comes Alec. It's still stalling out the point. Down goes Killer, but Nightingale is back. Sela gets the kill onto Alec, but Bill and Nebulous are there. The fight never ends for Laika Adams as they are just mere meters away from capture. Here comes Races getting the kill onto Sela, but here comes Sad Whale. Sad Blue Whale back in the fight. Nebulous is there. Here comes Big Jumpman once again. Down goes Nebulous, Nightingale, and Sad Blue Whale holding down the fight, but Alec with the re-aggression. Cat fighting on the robot with, once again, Bigman spinning in circles. Alec extraordinarily low. Killer gets the kill. The D-Mech from Bic, it's just meters away, but Laika is still fighting. Bill gets taken out by Nightingale, Race Ace, and Nebulous spinning around in circles. They can't stall forever. They try and hold, but Laika Adams take the lead, and the fourth map up against First Flame. Oh my goodness gracious, what an overtime, folks. That's going to tie things up 2-2. We'll be back with map 5 to see which of these amazing teams will take the series after a short break.
Finally kiss goodnight. How I'll hate going out in the store. But if you really grab me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. Oh, the fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbye. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Outside the snow is falling and friends are calling you. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, let's go. Let's look at the show. We're riding in a wonderland of snow. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, it's grand, just holding your hand. We're gliding along with the song of a wintry fairyland. Our cheeks are nice and rosy and comfy cozy are we. We're snuggled up together like two birds of a feather would be. Let's take the road before us and sing a chorus or two. Come on, it's lovely weather for a sleigh ride together with you. There's a birthday party at the home of Farmer Gray. It'll be the perfect ending of a perfect day. We'll be singing the songs we love to sing without a single stop at the fireplace while we watch the chestnuts pop. Pop, pop, pop. There's a happy feeling nothing in the world can buy when they pass around the coffee and the pumpkin pie. It'll nearly be like a picture print by Courier and Ives. These wonderful things are the things we'll remember all through the holiday season.
Wrong overlay, folks. My bad. Welcome back to our final map of the night. The overlays are on the wrong side. Man, I am fumbling right now. All right, First Flame going up against Laika Adams in our last map of the night, map 5. First Flame took the first two, but oh my goodness. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't get. I'm sorry, I didn't capture that. Bill just killed all 5. 3 in a singular shot. That's... Alright, so a bit of a tough start for Laika Adams. They're going to have to come back from a very quick team kill, but luckily that meant their spawn waves were all fairly close together. What a start to the match, as already Bill is showing some intimate knowledge with Junkrat that I personally had no idea existed. We do have a couple of bans to address, but after that, it made me a bit timid to mention. The first ban was actually onto Echo from First Flame. They got tired of seeing the Echo pick from Killer. The second ban was actually onto Lucio. So Alec is forced to play something that isn't Lucio, rolling out on the Baptiste instead with Killer on the Pharah. What an interesting start to our King's Row match. This is the tiebreaker and the match decider, which means both teams are on the edge of their seats to figure out who will emerge the champion here. Definitely no easy task for either of them, and both teams are really showcasing their talents here. Race's having the Deadeye, looking for an opportunity to use it. First Flame feeling fairly confident, playing on the low ground. Cat misses the rock, goes back in for the... Oh, and there's Bill using the tire, getting the kill onto Killer. In the back, gets one on a Cat. Finishing blow from Race on the Nightingale. Once again, Bill's Junkrat is tearing everybody up on Adams. They're struggling to figure out how to counter this. Bill, honestly, is just such a menace on the Rat. First Flame holding down now. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. Looking for an answer, looking for an opportunity. There's the amplification matrix comes out from Alec there. Alec gets the kill on the Cat. We can see Bigman playing forwards. Killer with the kill on the Bill. That's a big kill. But Laika is unfortunately down their tank. Not able to pressure, waiting for Cat to go on the reset here. First Flame ready to go. We can see Laika playing through the motel here. Less than a minute on the clock. Laika looking for their last chance here. There's the Graviton Surge from Bigman, but out comes the Tidal Blast to keep Cat alive. Nightingale does eventually go down. We can see down goes Neb, Bill, Alec, Gravitic Flux comes out. Bigman's bubbles burst, and Race Ace goes down. First Flame not quite able to hold that down. The Graviton Surge and the Kitsune Rush not able to lock out Laika's insurmountable pressure as they are able to take the capture. You can see Laika Adams preparing for more pressure up against First Flame. They have 2 ultimates ready to go. Killer could go for the Rocket Barrage on the backside. Race Ace has the Deadeye once again. First Flame holding a bit forward. There's the Bob to initiate from Thela. Rocket Barrage comes out from Bob as well. Lots of pressure from Laika Adams as they get 3 kills. Hickman follows not too long after, and First Flame already forced to another reset. With Race Ace going for the sack play there. Headed back in for the next fight. First Flame has to find a way to counter this. It's already looking a bit tough. We see that tire come out from Bill. Bill's taking it all the way into the back. Ooh, but Killer with the snipe from the Pharah, knocking that tire out of the sky. First Flame still holding on, but the pressure is coming back up for Laika Adams. Bill and Nebulous get a couple kills on the Sela, and Cat should be enough to shut down the fight, especially after Alec uses the amplification matrix. 1 minute on the clock again. Laika Adams has one more chance to finish out this push. They did get it decently far, but they really need to get for that second capture there. Killer making the swap off the Pharah over to the Symmetra. Coming down to another close wire capture. Not a lot of ultimates on the board for Laika. They're going to have the Wuyang and the Kiriko ultimate, but both of those being supports are a bit difficult to play around. You can open up with the Kitsune Rush or the Tidal Blast, either one interchangeably. Ideally, you open up with the Kitsune Rush to have a bit more viability for the rest of the composition. Around the corner here, don't have a lot of time left, 20 seconds left. There's the Tidal Blast to open things up. Sela gets taken out early on. Bigman with that kill. We can see Race fighting for his life up against Cat in the back, gets the kill on the Nebulous, but has to pop the Suzu. Full kit comes on from the Kiriko and actually saves Cat's life. Sad fighting up against Bill in the back, trying to whip back around. One more shot would be more than enough, but a scary engagement. Bill sees the trap. Oh, and the trap is enough to do in. Sad Blue Whale, here comes the tire as well. It's racing all the way to the back, and it gets the kill onto Sela. Cat with the kill onto Alec. Laika still trying to hold on. They're able to play in for as long as possible, but here comes the Kitsune Rush from Nebulous again. Gravitic Flux comes back out. There's the High Noon from Race Ace. Has to play around the card. Bickman gets taken out. Cat doesn't go down to the Deadeye either. Does eventually fall to Race Ace. Nebulous with the kill on the killer as well. It's just Nightingale who gets the kill onto Race Ace. We're seeing another one of those overtime plays. But ouch! Here comes Sad Blue Whale, the definitive blow onto Race Ace. Like Adams able to get the capture at the overtime once again. Pulling ahead right when they need to. Right when it is most important. Like Adams with less than a minute on the clock, getting ready to round things out. Just have to get this last capture, but they don't have a lot of time. First Flame also with a slight ult, actually an ult disadvantage with the average going over to Laika. Gives them a bit of an advantage. They just have to play around this amplification matrix. They back out of the sight line, keeping everyone alive, but Sela is a bit low. First Flame is not going to be able to get the picks that they need as a result, which actually leaves an opening for Laika as they're able to get a kill on the Nebulous here. 40 seconds on the clock. They just have to capitalize a little bit longer. Big in an extremely vulnerable position. Gonna get demech'd. The pressure is mounting. Laika is getting ready to round that last corner with a kill on the Sela, but man, Sela gets a kill on the Bill. Pikmin falls. So does Race Ace. Cat's still in there, trying to get the last few picks with one on the Nebulous. Starts rounding the corner, 20 seconds on the clock. Gonna see some quick swaps as Alec goes down a bit late into the fight. Neb coming back up, sticking on the Kiriko here. Same thing with Alec on the Baptiste. We're actually seeing the exact same roster. Bill gets taken out by Sad Blue Whale on the Wuyang again. Gravitic Flux doesn't hit anybody. Race Ace with the kill on the Sia. There's the Tidal Blast. Gets the kill onto Alec, and no one on First Flame has the touch. And just like that, Laika Adams are able to take the first captures once again. They were down to overtime, a bit of a tough spot to be in, but First Flame, we'll have to see if their offense is able to live up to Laika's there. Laika definitely playing it very, very close to the wire, getting it down to 0 seconds and overtime on nearly every single point. First Flame, the way they play on this first point could completely jurisdict how things play out moving forwards. Coming down, we can already see Bill's gonna open up.
Oh, you think my muscles are pretty?
Pretty weak.
Gonna open up on the Widowmaker here. You can see just going for those pot shots right out of the gate. 20 seconds on, but 20 seconds before we set up. Killer's opening up on the Tracer again. instead of the Pharah. I think the Pharah worked decently well on the first 2 points, and it was a wise choice for Killer to make the swap once they hit an interior. Trying to find value on something that isn't Pharah could be a bit tricky, especially on something like Tracer. Bill has been absolutely shredding squishier health pools. It's a bit of a risky gambit, but I think that if Killer plays around the composition well, I think if Killer plays around the composition well, won't have to ever engage Bill, and theoretically that should find value on Tracer. Although Blue Whale and Killer already forced passive because of the push through Motel on First Flame. Nebulous getting kind of locked out in the back there. Sealer with the kill onto Bill. Bill going down is a big pick for Laika, as they just have to collapse on the rest. You can see Cat's just going to be able to survive that with the Suzu coming in at the right time. That Blue Whale keeping up Sela as well. First Flame losing Race Ace, still deciding to play in a bit, but they're in a tricky spot. Killer with the kill onto Alec, and that is going to put both Nebulous and Vic Jumpman in a tough spot. And Nebulous with the double kill on the Sela, and Cat actually creates a bit of an opening here. But First Flame still has to be cautious of the rest of the pressure. Race Ace with the kill onto Killer, Nightingale falling as well. First Flame's able to get 33% on the capture and a bit of a slow reset. Swapping over to the Winston for a chance to touch, but gonna have to have someone touch before then. And Laika Adams opt to give the capture over to First Flame. Cat dives in immediately after. Sela with the kill onto Bill. Bill feeling a bit more pressured out by Sela this time around. Not able to get as much value on Junkrat as he did last time, making this a bit of a stronger fight for him. Once again, First Flame. The pressure turned back up against them very quickly. Laika Adams just completely running it down right out of their spawn. We can see the Cassidy swap over from Race Ace here, trying to find value there. Nebulous has the Kitsune Rush. Sela has the Overclock coming up on that Tidal Blast and the Kitsune Rush as well. First Flame with the swap. I honestly didn't even notice. Alec on the Ana now. I think this is a pretty solid roster swap, especially for King's Row. Creates a bit more comfort in longer sightlines. Sela with the kill onto Race Ace, trading out the Killer. Bill getting the kill there. Bill with one on the Cat, but Nightingale gets a finishing blow on the Bic, and that Overclock popped at a really great time. And there's Bill's tire getting Sela once again. Their rivalry continues. Those two going back and forth in fights all night long. And First Flame is able to reset. They're pushing back out. Hickman opting to take the height here, preparing to fight Winston. First Flame has two ultimates here. So does Laika Adams, though. This is going to be a bit of an even matchup, unless that nano boost comes in at the right time. Alec has the potential to completely sway the entire fight. Less than 3 minutes on the clock now. There's a Tidal Blast. A big sleep there from Alec. Hits the Graviton Surge as well. There's the nano boost, as I was talking about, from Alec onto Bic. Trying to make value of it, but honestly, Laika really spacing themselves really well. You can see both Kitsune Rushes come out from Nebulous and Nightingale. Laika Adams still kind of slowing First Flame out. Killer tries to get the kill, baiting out the sleep there. Oh, but doesn't find the pulse. Has to go for the recall. Still able to stay in the fight, but Bill has got Killer's number. Chasing them down in the back, finds the kill on a Cat. Hickman is able to find value with that, but First Flame still has not been able to get to the cart yet. 2 minutes on the clock. They've got a decent amount of time. Killer, once again, narrowly evading Bill's attempts to light them up. Bill has the tire again, goes in high, sweeps down to the middle, and boom! Nightingale is taken out. As a result, First Flame has a lot of potential to walk. Very charged beam as well. Fighting up against the Winston, finding a ton of damage against Cat. Raysace having that Deadeye, but it's a little too slow at the fight at the moment. Coming up on that Graviton Surge, just needs a little bit more percent. Cat playing on the height, potentially anticipating it, but has to dive out. That beam is just fully charged. On to Big here. Sticks him onto the cart. That's a big value, but here comes the Tidal Blast. Is it enough to get Cat back up? Just barely, but only for a moment. Bill gets a kill onto Nightingale. First Flame finds kill after kill after kill. Cat, at such little health, does eventually fall to Raysace. First Flame is able to get the capture. 2.5 minutes on the clock. Once again, coming down to the absolute wire. First Flame rallying on the offense once again, peeking over through this corner. Lots of value. Cat taking a lot of damage here, trying to hold on. Adams getting ready to retaliate. That overclock, not finding as much as they would like. But coming up on that Pulse Bomb, chance to make something happen. Cat and Nightingale finding a couple of kills onto Bill and Alec, forcing a reset from First Flame. As we can see, Raysace trying to back out of there, has that Deadeye, but not going to be able to find any value with it until they have a reset here. First Flame does have 4 ultimates, and when I say the ult economy is skewed in their favor, I mean it. First Flame just has to make good value out of these, and they could turn the fight completely in their favor. Headed to 1.5 minutes on the clock, though. We're nearing a pretty even matchup. There's the Deadeye. Here comes the Nano Boost. In deep, Cat just cannot take the overwhelming amount of damage. Bad Blue Whale, forced passive as well. Here comes the tire from Bill. Into the back, there's the recall from the Tracer. Dives in once again. Killer, extraordinarily low, is not going to be able to take the overwhelming amount of presence from First Flame. Nightingale and Killer go down. 1 minute on the clock now. First Flame, Laika rallying as quickly as they can to the defense. Both Kitikos sharing the brain cell as those Kitsune rushes come out at the exact same time. Bill trades out with Sela. It's coming down to the last minute on the clock. Here's the Graviton Surge. But that shield is in a perfect place. Killer and Nightingale do go down, but the Tidal Blast might be enough. It gets the kill on a Raysace. It's still scrambling for the point at any second now. Laika spawn waves coming back out. Here comes the Annihilation to refresh the armor. Bix on the way out, not going to be able to sustain as First Flame crumbles. They lose Nebulous, Alec, and Bickman. Going for a quick reset, 30 seconds on the clock, 5 meters away from capture. First Flame is not about to give up yet, but they have to go for this last team fight. Any early deaths could spell the series and the match up against Laika Adams down at the very last minute. Bickman rounding the corner. 12 seconds counting down. Raysace has the Deadeye. Ups it on long, not a lot of presence there. Gets the sleep onto one, finds the kill on the Nightingale. Bickman's down though. First Flame loses their tank. There's a second on the clock. Bill's the only one that can touch. Nebulous floods in, still staying alive. Alec and Nebulous finding kills. Raysace gets another. First Flame finding kills out of sheer coincidence here. Nightingale teleports on, is able to sustain for a moment longer, but Cat has to play by themselves now. Here comes Bickman on the Diva, swapping off the Zarya just to get the kill. The overtime's ticking down. 3, 2 meters, 1 meter, 1.38. Sad Blue Whale touches, but just for a moment, the cart captures. First Flame gets the overtime capture, putting our scores even 3-3 with a singular minute on the clock for both teams. Folks, this is an extraordinarily even matchup, and the match could go either direction, making this extraordinarily tough to see which team will take the lead. We might see some slight composition change. I expect someone will go Widowmaker out of the gate to try and get an early shot. If not, we shall see. Can already tell Bill's back on the Junkrat. We can see Alec rolling out on the Ana again here. And we can see Sad Blue Whale opening up with the Juno. Bit of an interesting pick, but as I had mentioned during our Route 66 map, with the recent buffs to Juno, her being able to deal critical damage, definitely definitely gives her some more viability here. Putting up on the overtime half. This is going to come down to distance at this point, with both teams having only a singular minute. Laika opting to rotate right quickly with Sad Blue Whale and Killer playing together. Alec playing up in the window. First Flame playing a bit passive here. The engagement hits them. Alec trying to deal some damage onto Cat, but Race goes down and Vic is so low. First Flame is practically dropping like flies. Laika rallies to the point fairly quickly. Race is trying to make a quick swap over to the Sojourn here, but it's not going to affect the fact that Laika is able to get this capture here. Bill back on the shenanigans of Junkrat, looking for some value here. Bill with a kill on to Sela here. Coming up on that tire as well. Race is trying to find some pressure through the Sojourn. Here comes the tire. It's diving through the back. Gets a kill on to Nightingale. Big value there, as Sad Blue Whale is feeling the heat as well from Bickman. Coming down to the wire, First Flame is able to knock Laika off the point after getting the full capture. Now, here's the thing. That was a pretty solid round, all things considered, for the Atoms. Able to get that capture and put the score 3-4. The only concern I have is I was a bit curious as to First Flame's defensive method there. They kind of willingly stacked a lot of pressure. Like I mentioned, they were playing very passive during that part of the map, putting themselves at almost seemed like an intentional disadvantage. But with that being said, that gives a lot of momentum for the Atoms to play with. They were able to get those 27 meters, and a large part of that is just what the payload moves on its own, but still, getting the full capture and then those 27 meters, that's no easy task. It means that First Flame is going to have to find a competent reaction to Laika's honestly pretty impressive display. I mean, they were able to get the exact captures that they needed at the exact moments and really used the full minute that they had extraordinarily well, making this no easy feat for First Flame to do. We'll see, though. It's about to be the very last half, coming down to the wire for both teams here. You can see Bill once again on the Junkrat shenanigans. Cat already extraordinarily low, but is going to be able to survive the trap there. Bad Blue Whale rolling back out on the with some presence. Bad Blue Whale still holding on. First Flame not able to quite find the break in, and you know, this is nearly their whole minute up. I don't see First Flame putting in as much aggression as Laika was able to, and I think that's because Laika isn't holding a passive defense like First Flame did. We can already see that presence be overwhelming. Pat is required to turn for Bick, but look at that. Sela gets 2 kills, Nightingale gets 1 on the Neb, and that overtime is ticking down. Race falls. Who has a touch? No one on First Flame as it ticks down. And that, folks, is going to close out the night. First Flame not quite able to lock down on their overtime half of King's Row, putting the final score 3-2. And folks, I'm going to let the play of the game play while I talk us out. First and foremost, I want to say thank everybody so much for watching. I appreciate everybody showing up. There's the play from Bill earlier. Um, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. You know, I really like commentating FaceIt. I really like commentating Overwatch in general. Shout out to Laika. Laika, you guys, thank you for being in the chat. You've all been so nice tonight. Congratulations on Adams for taking this win. But if you're interested in more FaceIt Overwatch, I've got great news for you because I will be back. And if you want more FaceIt Overwatch, that's all I'm doing. So starting up very soon, I've got a couple more matches headed your way, both of which are First Flame because they're the only team that lets me commentate their matches. So thank you, First Flame. I appreciate that. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, I don't know the dates. Hang on a second. So the next match headed up after this one is on the 15th on Monday. I'll be back at this time, 8 o'clock. For First Flames going up against X Cloud, which is going to be our first match of next week. And then the second match of next week, goodness, folks, is going to be on Wednesday, this time next week, against DDR. Now, I will mention those streams aren't going to be very long because I'm going to be a very busy bee next week. But I'll still be here to do those matches and those matches only. As always, though, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoy FaceIt Overwatch, you know, hit that follow button because I do this all the time. And I was really trying to make the overlays look better. So if I seemed a bit spacey, I was trying to add pick bands, which I would show, but they didn't work. So I was very disappointed when the pick bands didn't work. Anyway, complete side tangent. I'm going to get off here. I thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And to all, a good night.